Chris Williamson started his podcast, Modern Wisdom, in an office in northern UK with audio quality so bad that people said it sounded like he was recording in a cave. His revenue was £25. That was 2018. By 2025, Modern Wisdom has almost 4 million subscribers on YouTube alone, with over 1 billion downloads, more subscribers in a single month than he had in the entire 3 years combined. But here's the thing nobody talks about. His subscriber graph was completely flat for 2 years. Straight line, zero growth. He published hundreds of episodes whilst watching the metrics not move at all. And something shifted. Everything changed, and it wasn't luck. It was a system, a specific blueprint, a replicable formula that you can use to grow your podcast yourself. So today I'm going to break down exactly how Chris Williamson did it, and more importantly, how you can, using the exact same tactics he did, to grow your channel starting today. If you're new here, I'm Jacob J. Watson-Howland. I'm an award-winning BBC featured photographer and Europe's fastest growing under 21 podcaster who's had guests like SpaceX co-founder Jim Cantrell and Evan Carmichael with over 4.4 million subscribers come onto my show, recording on my laptop from my bedroom. Let's get right into how Chris Williamson blew up his channel so you can do the same. So why his first 2 years looked like failure, but they weren't. Everyone sees the exponential curve and thinks overnight success. They don't see the flat line that preceded it. Chris recorded his first episodes in a Voodoo Events office. That's the gym where he and his friends worked out. The audio was terrible. Episode 1 got, barely any views. Episode 2 was the same. Episode 3 through to episode a couple hundred, almost identical numbers every single episode. Here's the thing about podcasting, right? 99% of podcasters don't make it past episode 1. Out of the 1% that do make it past episode 1, 99% of those don't make it past episode 20. That's the industry stat. 99% of creators quit before they even know if the idea works. Then, of the few percent that survive 3 episodes, then of the few that survive 1 episode, most quit by episode 20. So by the time Chris hit episode 20, he was already in the top 1%. By episode 100, he was essentially alone. But the graph still looks flat. Most creators, and I genuinely mean most creators, quit here. They think, this isn't working, the algorithm doesn't like me, I should switch topics or start over. But Chris didn't. He published 3 episodes a week, every single week, for 2 years, while the metrics told him nothing was happening. This is not inspirational porn. This is not, you just have to believe in yourself. That's the actual technical reason his growth exploded later. It's mathematical. Think about it. If you're posting 1 episode per week, you're giving the algorithm 52 chances per year to recommend your content, right? Chris was giving it 156 chances per year. And that's not including the daily 10-minute clips he makes based off his episodes as well. That's at base 3 times more opportunity to find an audience versus if you posted 1 episode a week. 3 times as many hours of content being recommended to people every single week. That scales, that compound. Most people and creators see consistency as this vague and spiritual thing. Just be consistent and good things will happen. No, consistency is a mathematical advantage. It's the surface area for the algorithm to work with. But what is the deeper principle? Most people quit because the work doesn't feel rewarding to them. Your brain is for immediate feedback. No views, no comments, no algorithm boost. Your brain says, stop, this is not working. That's not weakness. That is literally neuroscience. That's how humans are built. But Chris's competitive advantage wasn't motivation, it was structure. He had a publishing system so reliable that it didn't require motivation anymore. He showed up Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, every single week, whether he felt like it or not, whether the metrics rewarded him or not. That's the first principle. Consistency is a mathematical advantage, not a motivational concept. His next blueprint and formula is the club promoter playbook. How he learned psychology from nightclubs before he even started his podcast. This again is similar to Rogan being a stand-up comic for decades before he was a podcaster. The experiences and the lessons transferred to podcasting. Let me explain. Chris wasn't always a podcaster. For a decade and a half, he was a club promoter in the UK, and not a small-time promoter. He hired over 1 million people into nightclubs over a decade and a half. Most people hear club promoter and think it's irrelevant to podcasting. It's actually the complete opposite. Let me explain. It's everything. Here's what you learn. People don't want entry to the club. They want access to what's inside the club, the vibe, the people, the status, the feeling that something exclusive is happening in there, not the club itself. He basically spent 14 years studying how to create that feeling, how to generate hype, how to make people feel like they missed something if they hadn't shown up to this club, to this event, to this vibe. Then when he started Modern Wisdom, he asked in an interview, how do you make sure you don't bring that same club promotion energy into your podcast, that artificial hype? And he said something really honest. He said something along the lines of, I can transmute that energy into the podcast, make people need me for artificial reasons, but instead I create real value they can't get elsewhere. That sentence is the entire philosophy. He didn't abandon the club promotion skills, he redirected them and became the vibe architect of his show. Hello? It's locked. Not right now. I'm not actually that hungry. The club promoter playbook in podcasting looks like this. First, hype generation. In a club, you create hype through social exclusivity, scarcity, limited tables, VIP sections, guest lists. This feeling of, if I don't get there, I'll miss out. FOMO, right? In podcasting, he does this through guest selection. You're not going to release an episode with an unknown guest today and then another unknown guest the next week. You're building momentum. You're saying, next week, I'm going to get David Goggins. The week after, Andrew Huberman. You're creating a calendar of events that make people want to stay subscribed and listening. Because if you unsubscribe, you might miss the future Joe Rogan episode or the future Jordan Peterson episode. So if you're able to slowly increase the quality of your guests every single week, that builds trust with your audience and keeps them excited, hoping someone else is going to come on that's just as big as the week before and therefore stay on your channel. Second is social proof. In a club, the coolest people are already there, so more cool people want to come, right? It becomes self-reinforcing. With Modern Wisdom, the credible guest is already there on the show now. David Goggins appeared. That signals quality. So how can smaller creators start pitching to be on the show, thinking, if Goggins did it, maybe I can too? So now smaller creators are now trying to pitch to come onto the show because of the likes of these big name guests that they want to be rubbing shoulders with on the podcast. But also bigger creators think, wait, this podcast is bigger than I realized. If Goggins is on it, then maybe I should be on it too. This network effect compounds. Third is FOMO as a marketing tool. Nightclubs use FOMO. The best parties happen on Friday nights. You can either be there or not. The decision is binary and time bound. Modern Wisdom does this through clip strategy. 3-part structure release is their method. First, a teaser clip that drops before the episode, then another teaser, and then the full episode. Each one ends with a call to action telling them that the full episode will be available soon and to subscribe if you don't want to miss it. And what you're doing is creating artificial scarcity around the content that exists permanently on the internet. That's the club promoter move. By doing teasers beforehand, it keeps people hooked in because if they like the teaser, they're sure as hell going to like the full episode. Fourth is community as the product. In nightclubs, the community is actually the product you're selling. The drinks are secondary. The music is secondary. The feeling of belonging is primary. Modern Wisdom audience feel like they're part of something. Early supporters feel the propriety. They say, I found this show early. There's a tribal membership involved. That's a community psychology from 14 years of running venues. So the real insight is Chris didn't bring the club promotion strategy and energy in to his podcast in a sleazy way. He brought the psychology of human belonging, scarcity, and the network effect. Those are universal principles that you have to use. And here's why this matters for you. If you understand this layer, it's not just about making content. You're designing an experience, a vibe. You're creating a feeling of being part of an exclusive event. The next tactic he used is YouTube as the front end of the funnel. Most podcasters have one of two mindsets. Mindset 1 is we're primarily a Spotify podcast. YouTube is secondary. Mindset 2, we're on all platforms equally. We let the audience pick where they consume us. Chris has mindset, YouTube is the funnel, Spotify is where they stay. Here is the strategic difference. YouTube has the most powerful algorithm for discovery out of any platform. If your video is good, the algorithm can recommend it to millions, if not billions, of people who don't follow you and don't know you. Spotify just doesn't do that. Spotify surfaces content from people who already follow you, and that's basically about it. So the question becomes, where do new people discover modern wisdom? YouTube, almost exclusively YouTube. A listener discovers a 10-minute clip on YouTube, watches it, and then subscribes on YouTube. Then, over time, after watching 4 episodes on YouTube, migrates to Spotify because it's more convenient for daily listening. You don't have to be watching it. You can just put it onto your earphones. But the trap that most creators fall into is if you use YouTube to drive people off the platform, YouTube punishes you with lower distribution. Here's why. The YouTube algorithm cares about 2 things: watch time and click-through rate. If people are clicking through external links, your watch time and engagement metrics decrease, so YouTube shows your videos to fewer people. Chris solves this by doing the opposite. Don't aggressively push Spotify in your YouTube videos. Don't put giant listen to Spotify buttons. Don't interrupt the video to block you to other platforms. Instead, optimize for YouTube viewers to stay onto YouTube. Make the YouTube experience so good that they subscribe. Then naturally, they go onto Spotify later when they want audio-only consumption after a few episodes or a few months of listening to the show. This is completely different to how most podcasters approach it. They think, get people on YouTube to convert to Spotify, that build my Spotify numbers. Use YouTube to build the audience, then let them find Spotify spontaneously and organically. And the result is Modern Wisdom has a massive YouTube presence and a massive Spotify presence, not just by forcing people to go from one platform to the other, but by treating each platform as a distinct experience that viewers can choose themselves. Here are some specific tactical elements he optimizes on YouTube. Number 1, thumbnail. They're professional, consistent, simple, but compelling. Clickbaity in a desperate way, but definitely engineered for a thumb-stopping effect. I've heard him call it ethical clickbait, which is, I think, a really good phrase and very true to the tactics that they use to grow the channel, which you can use yourself. Number 2 is titles. We're going to break this down more later, but titles matter a lot. Number 3 is the intro hooks. The first 30 seconds are crucial. The first start of the episode cannot be rambling. It has to hook people in immediately. And that's often why they just start straight with the most engaging question first. 4 is subtitle trailers, small clips with captions that work with the sound off. This increases YouTube retention metrics because people don't need audio to stay engaged. They often watch with the audio off when it comes to short form content. And then 5 is end cards and recommended videos. This is a way to keep people on the channel and make the next video for them to watch obvious and therefore increase the watch time on your channel. The philosophy: treat YouTube as a unique platform, not as the place where we upload our podcast videos. This seems small, but there's a difference between thousands of views and millions of views. When Modern Wisdom was at 200,000 subscribers, he didn't say, my audience is on Spotify. He said, YouTube is where my discovery happens. Let me optimize that. 2 years later, he has 3.25 million subscribers. Most podcasters are still thinking, Spotify is my real platform. YouTube is my extra. That's the old model. Chris proved the new model is the inverse of that. Why publishing frequency is actually a mathematical advantage, not just motivation. Let's do some math. Chris published 3 episodes a week, right? Let's say Wednesday, Friday, every single week, no exceptions. A typical podcast publishes 1 episode a week. Over the year, Chris therefore posts 156 episodes a week, and a typical podcaster posts 52 episodes. The difference is Chris is publishing 3 times more content. And if we extrapolate that over 5 years, Chris is posting at least 780 episodes, and a typical podcaster is posting 260 episodes. The difference is Chris has posted 3 times as much content. And now, here's why this compounds with a YouTube algorithm. Every time you publish, you get the signal, this creator is active, this creator is reliable, this creator deserves distribution. Additionally, every time you publish, you get another point of entry to the algorithm, another thumbnail, another title, another chance for someone to click. A typical podcaster gets 52 algorithm attempts per year. Chris gets 156 algorithm attempts per year. In fact, he gets 365 algorithm attempts per year because he posts his clips on the same channel every single day. Which you think gets more total views? Is literally not even close. But there's a deeper principle. Most creators think publishing frequency is about motivation. If I just commit to consistency, good things will happen. No, that's not why it works. Motivation is temporary. Willpower is limited. Publishing frequency works because it's structured advantage. It's not about belief, it's about mathematics. Here's an analogy. If two basketball players are identical in skill, same shooting percentage, same speed, same decision making, the one who takes 20 shots per game will score more than the one who takes 10 shots per game. Not because of belief, not because of some luck, it's because of sheer volume. Now, why not publish even more, like 5 episodes a week? He chose specifically, and here's why. 1, quality control. You can't maintain the production quality at 5 episodes per week without a massive team. It's the sweet spot where you can maintain audio quality, interview quality, and guest quality whilst keeping the team lean. 2 is sustainability. It's hard to be the guest acquisition person, the interviewer, the producer, and the strategist all at once. Episodes per week allows him to do all of that without complete burnout. It's intense but sustainable. Audience habit formation. Publishing 3 times per week is a way to create a habit loop. People know Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. They expect it. I think actually now it's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. They expect that schedule, right? If you publish randomly or unpredictably, the habit wouldn't form. Therefore, the watch time, the retention, the loyal audience wouldn't grow for you. 4 is guest logistics. Scheduling guests 3 times per week requires a system, right? But it's manageable. 5 times per week would require basically a full-time booking agent, which would be way too much. So is the inflection point. It's high enough to be a mathematical advantage over 1 times per week creators, and it's sustainable enough to be repeated forever. It's frequently enough to create a habit, and it's manageable enough to create a quality that doesn't suffer. The deeper principle, don't publish more, publish at the frequency that gives you maximum advantage and maximum sustainability. So currently right now, I'm posting 2 times a week, but once I get a slightly bigger team, slightly more free time, once the show grows, I'm going to try and push it to 3 times a week. And here's what most creators get wrong. They see Chris publishing 3 times a week and think, I should do that too. Then they try for 2 months and burn out because they don't have the systems in place. The real move is build the system first, then increase the frequency, not the other way around. By the time Chris went to episodes per week, he had a publishing workflow that was tested, a guest booking system that worked, an editing process that was reliable, production quality that he could maintain, a financial model that supported hiring help. He didn't go from 1 episode per week to overnight. He scaled into it over years and months. But once he had the systems, the frequency advantage is permanent. It's a structural edge, and it's one of the primary reasons Modern Wisdom grew from a flat structure and flat metrics to over 3.75 million subscribers on YouTube. So here's what Chris also does. It's called the vibe architecture philosophy, why less preparation actually creates better results for you. This is where most podcasters get it wrong. The standard advice for running a podcast is do tons of research, prepare multiple questions, know the background inside out, come with a structured interview outline. Chris does almost the opposite of that. He does minimal research. He maybe reads 3 bullet points about the guest, maybe a chapter of their book. He doesn't write out every single question. He doesn't prepare for a structured interview outline. Instead, he focuses on one thing mainly, which is creating the right vibe. And this is not to say he doesn't do any preparation. I know he does do a lot of preparation. I'm just comparing the amount he does to other podcasters we've explored on this channel, like Lex Fridman, who can do days worth of research, hefty amounts. And you can choose whatever one you want. It doesn't have to be the minimal version like Joe Rogan or the middle version like Chris, or the super intense version like Lex Fridman. Test different ones out, see which one works for you, and then iterate that process. His philosophy is explicit. I'm not here to interview just to interview you. I'm here to create a vibe. And that vibe is actually the product. Think about why this actually matters, though. When you are over preparing, you're sending a subtle signal to the guest. You're saying, I'm nervous about this. I need to know exactly what you're going to say. And guests truly pick up on that. Their guard goes up. I mean, when I've done too much preparation, the interview becomes more rigid. I actually get more nervous. Whereas when I do a couple hours of preparation and just know the summary about the guest and then just base my questions off that, I found the conversations have been much, much better and the guest has been much more relaxed. So yeah, the guard definitely goes up. And when you underprepare, not carelessly, but strategically underprepare, you're sending a different signal. I'm confident in this conversation. I trust that we'll find something interesting. I'm relaxed enough that I can listen deeply instead of waiting for my next questions. And the guest responds to that. They relax, they open up, they say things that they wouldn't say in a more formal or structured interview. And this is the vibe architect principle. But how does he actually implement this? Well, he often talks to the guest for 10 to 15 minutes before the interview as they're about to record. And the goal is not to prepare questions, but to establish a rapport, to make the guest feel comfortable, to find a common ground. And whenever I do that on my podcast, we have a nice 5-minute conversation before the episode. It's always so much better, way more conversational, way less rigid. So I highly recommend doing that. And then number 2 is he walks the guest into an interview with an emotional baseline of confidence and enthusiasm. What does that actually mean? Not false enthusiasm, but genuine interest in what the guest has to say. That emotional state is actually contagious. And then number 3 is he prepares the environment, not only the questions. The lighting is professional, the audio is clean, the seat's comfortable, or there's no seat at all, he's standing up. There are no distractions, but he's not just rehearsing the scripts. He's actually creating a nice professional quality which establishes his authority. Number 4 is he genuinely listens instead of waiting to talk. This may seem obvious, but most interviewers are already thinking about the next question while the guest is talking. Chris actually hears what the guest is saying and then spontaneously responds to it. This is a common theme among all the top podcasters. They're not just thinking about the next question they have. They're genuinely just trying to focus on what the guest is saying and waiting to respond spontaneously, or not waiting at all because they're just so focused on what the guest is saying. Number 5 is that he lets guests go where they want to. If an interesting tangent comes up, he follows it instead of bringing it back to the prepared outline. And what is the result of that? The conversations actually feel alive. They feel unrehearsed. They feel like you're listening. It basically feels like you're listening to two people who are genuinely interested in each other and are having a real conversation, right? It's not just a rigid Q&A conversation, traditional interview, where the host is trying to cover as many topics as possible and not let the guest speak. And those conversations always perform better. And that's from my experience as well. I can 100% agree with that. The conversations feel unrehearsed. They feel alive. They feel like you're listening into two people who are genuinely interested in each other having a real conversation. And those conversations perform much better. And this is why the guest quality actually matters so much. If you bring someone interesting on and you're relaxed and listening, the conversation will be interesting as a result. You don't feel the need to manufacture it. You don't feel like you have to create space for it to emerge. So here is the meta principle. We're teaching about vibe creation, right? And the importance of psychological safety and genuine human connection. But the script in the video is also demonstrating those principles while teaching them. I'm demonstrating those principles right now. You're listening to this not because you're in a perfectly scripted sales pitch. You're listening to this because it's a conversation with someone who's genuinely interested in what you're sharing and what they found out about how Chris Williamson works. That is the vibe architecture principle applied to how I'm delivering this information to you. The best teaching doesn't tell you the principle and then show you something completely unrelated, right? The best teaching embodies the principle whilst teaching it to you. So as you're listening to this breakdown about how Chris created conversations himself, you're also experiencing the same principle in how you're receiving this information. It's self-referential, right? It's a masterclass in applied psychology wrapped inside a breakdown of applied psychology. And that's what separates the best content from the one that gets 0 views. Every element serves multiple purposes simultaneously. So the next strategy Modern Wisdom has used to grow their show is the clip first strategy. And He copied this from Hollywood. Movie studios have been using this for 50 years. You're working on a film, you shoot for weeks, you have the footage, the movie is done, right? But before you release the movie, you release the trailer, you release teaser clips, you release the behind the scenes footage, you build up anticipation. This means the movie doesn't hit the theaters cold, and it hits the theaters with an audience that's already waiting for it. And Chris applies this exact playbook to podcasting and fundamentally changes how his episodes were discovered. Here is the timeline for a Modern Wisdom episode. Day 0, the episode is recorded, guest comes in, talks for 2 to 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours, great conversation, loads of material. And then the next day, editing and clipping begins, the team pulls out the best moments, they identify 2 to 3 standalone segments that work as complete thoughts in themselves, and each one is approximately, I'd say, about 10 minutes long. And these just aren't audio clips, they're actually video clips with subtitles, captions, maybe some B-roll graphics, but they're usually just a 10-minute clip from the podcast. Then the first teaser clip drops, it's the first 10-minute video, and it's the most interesting moment from the conversation, something that creates curiosity about the full episode. And then it will often end with a call to action saying when the episode drops, or Chris will put it on his story, for example, and then subscribe to watch the full episode. And then what happens? Well, if the guest is Naval Ravikant and he has 2.7 million followers, he sees the clip, he thinks it's good, he shares it to his audience, then his millions of followers see the teaser, hundreds of thousands of them click through to Modern Wisdom channel, they see some other episodes and they subscribe. It's that good and that simple. And then a second teaser will drop, and then a third. And what does this actually do? Well, it ensures that there is a positive signal to the YouTube algorithm. This indicates the episode is getting watched immediately by thousands of people and therefore it deserves distribution because they've seen the 2 previous teasers and are dying to see the full episode. So they get the views on that episode straight away because there's a whole army of people waiting for the full episode to come out. And then let's just compare that to dropping the full episode cold. Maybe a few hundred of your regular subscribers see it on day 1. The algorithm doesn't see it, the same immediate engagement, and therefore the distribution is slower. What is the psychology here? Well, 1, anticipation building. You're creating a narrative arc, and teaser on day 3, teaser on day 6, episode on day 7. People are thinking about the episode almost a week before they can consume it. And 2, multiple entry points. If someone misses the first clip, they might see the second clip. If they miss both, they see the full episode. You're not relying on a single moment of visibility and therefore have a higher chance of getting more views overall on that one episode. 3 is guest amplification. If the guest obviously shares the clip for their audience for free, that's media coverage that you don't have to pay for, and it's a social proof contract attached to your content. Number 4 is pre-algorithm boost. By the time the full episode drops, the algorithm has already warmed up the strong engagement on the clips. So let me give you a real example. The Naval Ravikant episode. The first clip drops alone and gets, hundreds of thousands of views. Naval then shares it to his social media following, or fans of Naval share it around the community on Twitter, on Reddit, etc. Let's say 5% of those clicked through to Modern Wisdom. That's at least 25,000 new people discovering the channel, and some subscribe. Then the episode drops, and then these 25,000 new members are in the audience immediately. The algorithm sees the strong day 1 engagement, and then it starts recommending the episode. And by the end of the week, the episode has 500,000 views. If Chris had just dropped the full episode on day 1 without the clips, you might have got 100,000 views. And the difference between a good episode and a viral episode is that it's the amount of people that begin to watch the first episode. Because if more people watch the episode on the first day it's published, the more the algorithm will boost it as a consequence. And the best way to encourage people to do that is to post the teasers before. And the content is identical, the guest is identical, and the only difference is the distribution strategy. So why isn't everyone doing this? Well, most podcasters don't have the production bandwidth. Clipping takes time, editing takes time, managing the release schedule takes coordination. Chris had to hire video editors specifically to do this. It's not free, it isn't easy, but it's mathematically advantageous once the system is in place. This is the core reason Modern Wisdom's algorithm performance is so much stronger. The next thing Modern Wisdom do is the big guest first strategy. Most creators think the process goes like this. They build an audience, then you attract the big guests. But Chris proved that the order is wrong. The real order is attract big guests straight away, then use their reach to build your audience. But this seems backwards, right? How do you get big guests before you have an audience? You pitch. You get rejected a lot, but you pitch. Here is his philosophy. Getting big guests is just a numbers game. You'll get rejected. Don't let that stop you. How did it actually work? Before Modern Wisdom launched, Chris actually made a list, a huge list, all the people he wanted to interview: authors, entrepreneurs, athletes, scientists, creators, hundreds of names. He started pitching episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. Some of them were to micro-influencers or friends, but he was also pitching bigger names. A lot said no, but some said yes. The first time a bigger name guest said yes, something starts to shift. You now have credibility. This person agreed to be on my podcast. It must be worth their time. This is what future guests are thinking if you mention the big name guest that just came onto your show. You release that episode and it performs better than the previous episodes because the guest has a bigger audience. Some of that audience sticks around and subscribes to your channel. Now, when you pitch the second bigger name, you can say, I just had this guest on. Thousands of people have watched it. The audience is already aware of the show. The second big name guest is now more likely to come on. And that's exactly what I do in my emails. I mentioned that I've got SpaceX co-founder Jim Cantrell, which helped me get Evan Carmichael. And now I'm going to mention I get Evan Carmichael on my show, who has over 4 million subscribers, to future people I want to come onto the show, which will then again help me get bigger name guests in the process. And this, like I just said, clearly compounds. The more big name guests you can get on, the more big name guests are going to say yes in the future. And that's exactly what's happened on Modern Wisdom. So don't be scared to reach out to big name guests. But once you do get the big name guests to come onto your show, after many, many no's and many, many maybes, once you finally get that first yes, include that in your emails and your cold outreach templates, and continuously do that and include more and more names as social proof, because it will make big guests in the future more likely to say yes, because it signals credibility of your show. Basically, social proof is contagious. One big name guest proves you deserve other big guests. Each guest validates the previous guest's decision to come on, and that's exactly what's happening for my show right now as we speak. And if the guest gets better, the audience continues climbing. Guest quality is the lever. It's genuinely the most important thing, the biggest lever you could pull. What gives you the most leverage. The bigger name guests you can get on, the sooner your audience and podcast will grow, and the sooner you'll be able to get your dream guests every single week. It's simple as that. So the next section is on Modern Wisdom's title and thumbnail formula from my hours and days of research. Here is what I've collected on Modern Wisdom and their title and thumbnail strategies that we can use to grow our show. Your title and thumbnail are the entire game. I'm generally not exaggerating. On YouTube, your thumbnail and title are the only levers you can control on whether someone clicks or skips past your video. They don't click on production quality. They don't click on your story. They click on the thumbnail and title. And Modern Wisdom follows a very specific pattern. Let me break it down. So, for example, episode number 712, Dr. Jordan Peterson, How to Destroy Your Negative Beliefs. The episode number 712 is social proof. You survived hundreds of episodes. The podcast is established. The guest name Jordan Peterson is authority we mentioned earlier. This is something credible. And credential of Dr. Jordan Peterson is an additional authority. Not just Jordan Peterson, but Dr. Jordan Peterson. And the power verb destroy is an action word, not understand or learn about. Destroy is active, is powerful. And that the specific outcome is your negative beliefs. Not vague, not how to think better, specifically destroy your negative beliefs. Let's look at another one. Episode 577, David Goggins. This is how to master your life. The episode number again is proof of persistence. The guest name and credibility is again authority, and the power verb master is agency, control, and mastery. It evokes emotion in us, and then the specific outcome, i.e. your life, is tangible and not abstract. So let me tell you the psychological hooks stacked in each title. The first one is, who is this person? Why should I trust them? This is answered in the guest name and the credentials. Your transferring their authority to your show. Number 2 is the specific transformation promise. What will I get by watching? Not vague lifestyle advice, but specific. Destroy your negative beliefs or master your life. The viewer should be able to imagine the outcome. And then 3 is the curiosity gap. Do I know the answer before clicking? Well, the best titles create this kind of gap. You know the topic, i.e. Jordan Peterson or your negative beliefs, but you don't know the mechanism behind how to destroy it. How do I destroy them? You have to watch to find out. And the 4th technique and principle in the titles that Modern Wisdom use to grow their podcast is powerful language. Are the words passive or active? Compare the passive version. Understanding negative beliefs, and the active, destroy your negative beliefs. The action version is 2 to 3 times more clickable. And number 5 is cognitive dissonance. Is there something counterintuitive? This is how to master your life works better than tips for improving because there's an implied promise or method of relevation. The secret tools contain the cognitive dissonance. Tools for the brain? Well, that's intriguing. Now compare titles to Modern Wisdom's titles to weak titles. The weak one is Podcast with Jordan Peterson. There's no transformation promise, there's no specificity, there's no power, there's no curiosity gap. And how to improve your life, again, is quite vague, it's generic, there's no social proof, there's no authority anchor. Whereas Dr. Jordan Peterson, how to destroy your negative beliefs, well, that works because of the authority, his name, and the doctor before it. The specificity is the limiting beliefs. The power verb is destroy. The curiosity gap is, not specifying what the method is to destroy your negative beliefs. And the episode number, again, adds social proof. And then Modern Wisdom's thumbnails are actually consistent and not generic. Here is the pattern that I've actually noticed. The guest's face are prominently featured, often close up, or displaying an interesting expression with their hand moving, looking away towards Chris, slightly off-center from the camera. And then there's bold, high-contrast text that's readable even as a thumbnail, often in a serif font, a few words, sometimes even one word. That's the new style that he's using. And it often includes power phrases from the title in the thumbnail or something related, and also a consistent color scheme and branding. It's not overly dramatic like Diary of a CEO's one, or overly simple like Andrew Huberman's black and white ones. It's kind of in the middle. It's readable and clear, but also a nice color, and there's some ethical clickbait going on in the powerful words used. The key principle is what to avoid. Most creators over-design their thumbnails. They add too many elements, and by the time it's shrunk down, you can't actually read it and you can't see what it's about. But Chris keeps it simple. The guest face, big text, and powerful text as well, and a clear message with consistent color branding. And why does it actually matter? Well, YouTube is scrolling through their recommendations. They see 150 videos in 5 minutes. Your thumbnail has about 0.5 seconds to stand out. If your thumbnail says nothing in 0.5 seconds, it just doesn't get clicked. If it clearly communicates this is a conversation with someone credible about something that matters, it gets clicked. The final principle is everything serves multiple purposes. The title, How to Destroy Your Negative Beliefs, for example, does multiple things. It attracts someone interested in psychology, Jordan Peterson, personal development, or someone struggling with negative beliefs, or someone curious about the how. Basically, it signals this isn't just a generic self-help video. It's something that they need to watch, and if they don't, they're going to miss out. So what is the meta principle that Modern Wisdom use to grow their show from nothing for 2 years to almost 4 million subscribers and 1 billion downloads, so we can do the same? Everything I've broken down, the consistency, guest selection, the titles, the clips, the vibe architecture, these aren't separate tactics. They're all working together cohesively, all serving multiple purposes simultaneously. So let's go through an entire episode and how all of these are working together to give Modern Wisdom the credibility and the subscriber count and the success it deserves and currently has. Let's say Chris and Joe Rogan recorded together. Here's everything that's happening simultaneously. At first is the content quality. The conversation is excellent. They're both vibing. The guest is comfortable. The audio's clean. The video looks professional. But more importantly, the conversation is actually worth listening to. And then layer 2 is the algorithmic signaling through consistency. This is Chris's third episode in the week. The algorithm sees publications from this channel. It notices the channel is active. This is a consistency advantage. Then layer 3 is the guest amplification. Joe Rogan has millions of followers. He sees the episode, he might share it. His audience gets directed to Modern Wisdom. This creates an immediate spike in traffic before the algorithm even has to do anything itself. Layer 4 is the psychology. The title is engineered to create curiosity, authority transfer, and specific benefit. People who see it can't help but click. Then layer 5 is thumbnail design. The thumbnail is compelling, readable, and communicates the episode's value in less than a second, in half a second, 0.5. Then layer 6 is marketing. Before the episode drops, there'll be teasers already building anticipation. People have already seen 30 minutes of content. They're primed to watch the full episode. Then layer 7 is social proof through the episode number. Episode 1050 signals the channel has published that many episodes. They're clearly committed. This is a legitimate podcast. Then layer 8 is the vibe creation, like we mentioned earlier. The conversation feels alive because Chris isn't overly prepared. It feels authentic, and this keeps viewers watching way beyond the intro hook. Layer 9 is the production value. The editor has made the episode visually interesting. Clips of the guests, graphics, visual breaks. This prevents passive scrolling. The viewers actually engaged. The color grading's nice. It's reverse key lighting, like where the shadows, where the camera's facing, and the light on the guest faces the other side, away from the camera, which creates a cinematic look. This all reinforces high quality and worth your time. Then layer 10 is community reinforcement. Regular viewers see Chris continuing the pattern they expect. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday episodes and high quality guests, consistency. This deepens their tribal membership to the podcast, and they're more likely to share, comment, and lead to push notifications and spread the message of the podcast, which helps the show grow, right? Now, here's the thing. Most creators do maybe 2 of these layers. And this is why their and your growth trajectory is flat and linear, while Chris Williamson's is exponential. If you want help implementing all of these layers and wisdom and advice, personal advice every week from a pro podcaster, and get the entire video course and blueprint of how you can start your own show from scratch using the things we mentioned here, but also many other secret tactics that I've learned along the way and learned from these massive creators like Chris, Lex Friedman, Stephen Bartlett from A Diary of a CEO, then my Pro Remote Podcast Blueprint is exactly what you're missing. If you want to become a pro podcaster, but you don't have any equipment, you live in the middle of nowhere, you don't know any famous people, you don't know where to start, then this is exactly for you, because it runs through the entire step-by-step process of how you can create your own pro show from scratch, from your laptop, with no prior experience needed, with my hand guiding you the entire way on the live weekly calls with the rest of the community who can keep you and hold you accountable so you stay consistent and be the 1% of podcasters who make it past episode 20. So if you're interested and you also want my AI and email templates to help you get guests and speeding up this entire process so you can become a pro podcaster like me today and get thousands of pounds worth of my time and expertise and secrets, which no other podcast that I'm talking about right now, like Chris or Lex or Stephen Bartlett, explicitly sharing to you, then click the top link in the description to become a pro podcaster yourself today with my guidance, and join Rob, who's already recorded 3 episodes and beat 99% of podcasters who don't make it past episode 1 in the process. And that also means the half price discount, the early bird discount, is only remaining for the next 9 members. Once we reach 10 members, then I'm going to double the price. So if you're watching this right now, you're early, but people are starting to snatch it up like Rob and get the benefits of my podcasting expertise and course before you. So if you don't want to miss out, then top link in the description. You won't regret it. I'll hopefully see you there. Hope you enjoyed this video too. I'm rooting for you. Goodbye.